Welcome back. Today we're diving into a really fascinating tale of two scientific mysteries. It's a story about how we deal with the unknown. On one hand, we have a strange object traveling through space, and on the other, a ghost particle that might not even exist.
That sounds like a sci-fi setup. A space traveler and a ghost.
It does, doesn't it? But this is real science. We're looking at an analysis by astrophysicist Avi Loeb. He draws a really sharp comparison between two recent events. One involves an interstellar object named 3I/Atlas, and the other involves the search for something called sterile neutrinos.
Okay, let's start with the space object, 3I/Atlas. Is that like Oumuamua?
Exactly. Oumuamua was the first interstellar object we found passing through our solar system, followed by another one called Borisov. 3I/Atlas is the third potential visitor. But here is the catch. It's behaving very strangely.
Strangely how?
Well, Loeb points out that it displays about 13 anomalies compared to the other two. The biggest puzzle is something called an anti-tail.
An anti-tail. Comets usually have tails that point away from the sun, right? Because of solar wind?
Right. But high-resolution images from the Hubble Space Telescope showed this object had a tail that appeared to flip orientation relative to its direction of motion. And Loeb emphasizes that this wasn't just a trick of perspective. It was physically doing something odd.
So, what is the anti-tail made of?
That's the million-dollar question. If it were normal, tiny dust particles, the solar wind would have just blown them away. So it has to be something else. Loeb suggests it could be made of ice fragments that evaporate, or perhaps larger objects that aren't pushed around by the sun.
Intriguing. Larger objects? You mean like technology?
That is where the controversy starts. Loeb noted that if this object is solid and larger than 10 kilometers, its trajectory looked like it was plunging toward the inner solar system intentionally. He even published a paper exploring a technological interpretation.
I imagine that ruffled some feathers in the astronomy community.
Oh, absolutely. Some experts, Loeb calls them dogmatists, dismissed any talk of technology as nonsense on stilts. There's a strong insistence that these objects must be natural asteroids or comets, even when the data is weird.
It seems like there's a high bar for suggesting aliens. But you mentioned a second mystery.
Yes, this is the other side of the coin. While astronomers were arguing about 3I/Atlas, particle physicists were wrapping up two massive experiments searching for sterile neutrinos.
I know about normal neutrinos. They come in 3 flavors, right? Electron, muon, and tau.
Spot on. The standard model of physics lists those 3, but past experiments showed some data that didn't fit, anomalies that suggested a 4th type might exist, a sterile neutrino that doesn't interact with matter at all, a true ghost.
So they built new experiments to find it?
They did. 2 major ones, microboon and the Katrin experiment. They spent years and a combined total of about $90 million to see if this ghost particle was real.
And what did they find?
Nothing. The microboon experiment excluded the sterile neutrino interpretation with 95% confidence. The Katrin experiment, which looked for distortions in the energy spectrum of decaying tritium, also ruled out most of the possibilities.
Wow. So $90 million spent to find nothing?
Well, Loeb argues it wasn't a waste. That's how science works. You have an anomaly, you test it, and sometimes you find out you were wrong. That expands our knowledge.
I see where you're going with this. The physics community spent millions investigating an anomaly about invisible particles, and that was considered good science?
Exactly. But when someone tries to investigate anomalies regarding interstellar objects, which might imply alien technology, they are ridiculed. Loeb asks, why is the search for sterile neutrinos considered serious, while the search for technological origins is treated as nonsense?
That is a really valid point. Both are attempts to explain data that doesn't fit our current models.
Right. And consider the stakes. As Loeb mentioned in a conversation with the president of the Templeton Foundation, alien technology has much more relevance to the future of humanity than a sterile neutrino does.
It's a matter of risk management, isn't it? If we are ignoring probes or craft entering our system because we are too afraid to look silly, we might miss something huge.
Precisely. The main takeaway from Loeb's research here is that arrogance of expertise can be an obstacle. Just because we've only seen 2 natural interstellar objects before doesn't mean the third one can't be artificial.
It sounds like we need to be a bit more humble.
Humble and curious. Whether it's a ghost particle or a strange rock with an anti-tail, the anomalies are where the discovery happens. We shouldn't let dogma decide which questions we're allowed to ask.
Well said. It definitely makes you wonder what else we might be missing, just because we're afraid to look.
It certainly does. That's all for our deep dive today. Keep wondering, and we'll catch you next time.